How's it going, everybody out there? My name is Jakejames Lugo and welcome to the channel. Now, I've been dying to talk to you guys about Freedom Planet for a while. I actually had the game early on the Nintendo Switch from GalaxyTrail, so big shout outs to them for that, and I wrote a review of it over on thecoalition.com. There'll be links in the description box below. But without further ado, let's just dive right into this review. This is Freedom Planet for the Nintendo Switch.
Freedom Planet is an action platformer developed by GalaxyTrail and was originally made as a Sonic the Hedgehog fan game that changed later on into a fully realized indie title. The game was first released on the PC through Steam, but eventually got ported to the Wii U and eventually the Nintendo Switch. Admittingly, I never played the first game during its original release, so I came into it with no expectations whatsoever other than the praise that I had heard from friends and colleagues. And much to my surprise, I found Freedom Planet to be interesting and fun to play. The story follows a dragon girl named Lilac and her friend Carol the Wildcat as they try to save their home planet from an alien invasion led by the evil Lord Revan. Along the way, they meet a mysterious duck-like creature named Torque and a shy young basset hound named Mila, along with a bunch of other colorful anthropomorphic characters as they work together to defeat Lord Revan and save their world. Despite the story being somewhat cheeky and shallow, the game has a great combination of fast-paced platforming and action that mixes great with cutscenes in between stages and a phenomenal soundtrack. If you're a fan of mascot games like Sonic the Hedgehog, then Freedom Planet is most definitely going to be right up your alley.
Now, let's be totally honest here. The story for Freedom Planet isn't really all that great. It's fairly simple, but it's the presentation that really makes this story stand out. I love all the characters. I love Lilac and her two friends, and being able to play as them in various different levels is pretty damn cool. But also, I really love the presentation, the sound cues, the voice acting, and a lot of the different little nooks and crannies and details that really make the presentation of this story, even though it's mediocre or shallow at best, pretty damn cool. Now, the only real problem I have with the story, besides it being very shallow and simplistic, is that some of the characters you don't really spend a lot of time with. You do get some interesting details about them, you see some of the rivalries and the relationships between them, but they're never fully fleshed out, and there's no like character profiles or dossiers about any single one of them in order to kind of get all the full details about what this story and what this world is all about. But outside of that, we have to talk about the gameplay for Freedom Planet, which I think is awesome.
It can't be overstated how much Freedom Planet's gameplay is heavily influenced by the Sonic series, only a lot of what's here is handled much better, with a few exceptions. You could choose to control one of three characters in the game: Lilac the Dragon, Carol the Wildcat, or Mila the Hound. Each of them has their own unique abilities and feels somewhat different, despite a lot of their basic actions being primarily the same. It's much like controlling Sonic, Tails, or Knuckles in some regard, with each character having just enough to feel different, but never getting too far away from the core gameplay. Out of the three playable characters, Lilac is my favorite to use since her air dashing ability keeps the momentum high as I'm moving around. That being said, however, Mila's double jump ability is great for exploring the stage, while Carol is great when you pick up her motorcycle power-up. However, if you lose that, then it's going to be a little tougher to get around. Stages are broken up into two acts, with a mini-boss and a main boss fight at the end of each. You can jump and zip around the different environments to gather crystals, health petals, and hidden extras as you defeat enemies moving around. One of the interesting things here is that you don't take damage by touching enemies, but rather only when they're attacking can you be damaged. This makes most of the areas in Freedom Planet seem a little easy when it comes to getting around obstacles, but that eventually goes away as the difficulty starts to ramp up towards the late end of the game. I did run into a few spots where a glitch would appear or certain events wouldn't trigger properly within a stage, but that rarely happens. Overall, Freedom Planet's gameplay is thoughtfully designed and pretty solid.
Out of the three characters that you get to play as in Freedom Planet, Lilac is my favorite. I feel like it's the most intuitive, it's the most simplistic and easy to get into. Even though the other characters have their own little abilities that make them all feel a little bit different, I feel like Lilac is the most fun to play as. Her ability in order to dash in the air and be able to do her little kind of spin attack that not only damages enemies but allows you to kind of get over gaps and do almost like a double jump, I think is pretty damn cool. With Carol, even though I love being able to use her motorcycle and jump around and be able to pounce on different enemies, I feel like she's not as kind of mobile and doesn't feel as easy to get into as Lilac does. The same thing also goes for Mila. The only thing that I feel like Mila has over the other characters, which is pretty useful, is her ability to double jump and kind of float in the air. It reminds me of Yoshi from Super Mario World. My only real problem with the gameplay of Freedom Planet is that it lacks the momentum that the Sonic the Hedgehog games have. Even though there's so much influence from the Sonic series in this game, that's the one little component that I feel like is missing. Even though they kind of like allude to it and have little aspects and characteristics of it in various different points, they never fully commit to it. It's kind of awkward when you're kind of running around, going through loops, and you have to scale this kind of like steep slope, and all of a sudden you're just kind of freely just walking up it. It doesn't look visually right to me. It feels like either I should be going downward, or some of the other momentum from some of my previous like movements should be able to kind of shoot me upward up a steep slope. It just looks very weird, and it kind of makes my character look like Spider-Man in some cases. But one of the other points I want to focus on with Freedom Planet's gameplay is its boss fights, which I feel like are very special here.
The boss fights I feel are the best parts of Freedom Planet's gameplay. Some of them are your standard one-on-one fights with an enemy, while others are a lot more interesting and fun to take on. A lot of this comes down to the presentation. The best example of this would be within the Fortune Knight stage boss against Serpentine. Lilac is being chased by a giant mech endlessly, but her friends eventually fly in and start helping out during the fight, leading to a big battle that feels like a finale rather than an early game boss fight. The interesting thing about this fight is that the perspectives change depending on the character you're playing as, but the intensity and excitement of the battle are similar. While the rest of the boss battles in-game never truly hit the same level of quality, they are still presented very well and exciting to play through.
It's clear to me that Christian Whitehead, who was one of the guys who developed Sonic Mania, played Freedom Planet at some point, because you can see a lot of parallels between some of the boss fights in that game and some of the boss fights and mini-boss fights in Freedom Planet, which to me I think are a joy to play. The presentation, the music, the gameplay, the action, the excitement, all of it just works well together. Now don't get me wrong, some of the boss fights in this game do get very tedious. There is some difficulty spikes towards the later half of the game, but they're still exciting to play, not only with the presentation and the music and all the different stuff they have, but also just with some of the stuff related to the story that really kind of ups the tension and really makes everything feel super special and very exciting and fun to play. And speaking of music, we have to talk about the soundtrack of Freedom Planet, which I think is freaking awesome.
The music in this game is really good. Major props to Lila Wilson and everyone else who composed this soundtrack. I love the mixture of Genesis-era sounding background music that still has a lot of modern sounds mixed into it. Every stage has a very different and recognizable theme that complements the visuals, while the story cutscenes have great musical cues and voiceovers that work out well. Even though I really love the entire soundtrack of Freedom Planet, it's the boss fight music that really stands out to me as the best track in the game. It not only sounds incredible, but really complements a lot of the action that goes on during the game's major boss fights, especially the Fortune Knight stage. Take a listen to this track and you'll understand exactly where I'm coming from with it. Seriously, it sounds so damn good.
Immediately after I spent a good amount of time playing this game, I went and I got the soundtrack for it to listen to, because I just love the soundtrack of this entire game. There's a lot of great pieces of music that I feel like you guys are really going to get a kick out of. Whether it's the background of the stages or the cutscenes or some of the different themes for different characters or bosses, the music soundtrack to Freedom Planet is really freaking good. And if you love the soundtracks of like Sonic games, then you're really going to get a kick out of this one. Overall, I really enjoyed my time playing through Freedom Planet. I went in there completely unprepared for how much I was going to enjoy it. I was really just expecting something that wasn't really going to be too special, was just going to be a clone of Sonic the Hedgehog, but what I found there was actually really enjoyable. I love the music, the soundtrack I think is awesome. I love the presentation, both with the visuals that are like 16 or 32-bit, with a lot of the colorful nature of the characters and the backgrounds and everything else just working together so well. I highly recommend you guys play this game at some point, even if you're not a fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, and you just want to explore something that's different, that borrows elements of it. This is highly recommended for me, because I just really enjoyed playing through it. I think that there's some aspects of this game that are even better than Sonic the Hedgehog, or at least some of the more recent Sonic games like Sonic Mania as of late. Anyway guys, that's my thoughts on Freedom Planet. Let me know what's up in the comment section down below. Tell me what you guys think about Freedom Planet, if you've played it, or if you're curious about it, or if you just want to say something about Sonic the Hedgehog or anything else of the sort that's similar to this game. Put it down in the comments below. And don't forget to leave me a like on this video and subscribe to my channel for all my videos related to gaming, interviews, podcast stuff. I have a whole bunch of new content I've been trying to upload weekly for you guys, despite everything that's been going on over here. There's a lot of great content for you guys to check out and enjoy. And also, big shout outs to Jasmine Russell for supporting me at the Beast tier level on my Patreon page. You're getting shout outs for the entire month on every single video that I put here on the channel. If you guys want that same type of love, or if you want to support my actual content here on the YouTube channel and everywhere else, make sure you guys check out the description box below and go to my Patreon page and consider pledging on there. There's a bunch of different exclusives, a whole bunch of content that's exclusive for my Patreon supporters that you guys could definitely enjoy, and you get the same type of love on every single video. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. I will talk to all of you again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.